According to researchers at Oxford University, if you map out every royal family throughout European history, an astonishing 75% of them trace their lineage back to one single dynasty, and that bloodline still holds power today. King Felipe VI of Spain and the Grand Duke of Luxembourg both sit on modern thrones as direct, male-line descendants of this family tree. You might expect a family with this kind of sprawling global legacy to have started out commanding a massive unified empire, but in the year 987, their position was incredibly fragile, and their grip on power was practically non-existent. By the late 10th century, the once mighty Carolingian dynasty was fracturing. Their authority over the Frankish realms had eroded, leaving a decentralized, disorganized map in their wake. Then, a sudden crisis hit. The last Carolingian king, Louis V, was thrown from a horse and died in a hunting accident. He left behind no son and no brother to inherit the crown. This created an immediate problem. Louis did have an uncle, Charles of Lotharingia. By traditional dynastic rules, Charles had a clear-cut, direct claim to the throne, but the West Frankish nobles bypassed him entirely. They rejected Charles and handed the crown to Hugh Capet, proving dynastic succession was not an absolute rule. Hugh was politically palatable, and he carried royal Ottonian blood through his mother's side, which gave his selection a vital veneer of legitimacy. Hugh had secured the crown, but the monarchy he inherited was structurally hollow. With his actual territory confined to a tiny region around Paris, the long-term survival of his new House of Capet was highly uncertain. In the early Middle Ages, monarchies were often theoretically electoral. That meant every time a king died, the transition of power became a precarious, high-stakes gamble. The French only had to look next door at the Holy Roman Empire to see the danger. There, the process to elect the King of the Romans routinely invited corrupt bidding wars, intense papal interference, and chronic instability. Hugh Capet realized that to survive, he had to eliminate the electoral process entirely. He needed a mechanism to permanently lock down the French throne for his own bloodline. To bypass elections, the Capetians invented a remarkably effective political mechanic known as associate kingship. While the current king was still alive, healthy, and firmly in power, he would compel the nobility to officially elect and crown his eldest son as his co-ruler. The strategic benefit was immediate. The moment the father died, the son was already the undisputed anointed monarch. There was no power vacuum, no interregnum, and no opportunity for a rival to step in. This timeline illustrates the result, an anomaly historians call the Capetian Miracle. While the English monarchy and the Holy Roman Empire suffered through chaotic, broken successions, the French crown passed directly from father to son for over 300 years without a single dispute. Because they never had to fight civil wars over who got to wear the crown, the Capetians could focus on expansion. They started with a small ring of territory around Paris, the Île-de-France, and steadily, generation by generation, pushed their borders outward to encompass the entire French state. This multi-generational consistency provided a structural foundation to absorb rival lands that were frequently destabilized by their own succession crises. That incredible 3-century streak finally broke in 1328, when King Charles IV died without a male heir to succeed him. This created an immediate geopolitical threat. Seeing an opening, the King of England attempted to claim the French throne through his mother's Capetian bloodline. To counter the English, the French nobility resurrected an ancient code known as Salic Law, which strictly dictated that royal power could only pass through the male line. By legally barring any claims through female relatives, the French successfully deflected the English threat. The crown shifted to a male-line cadet branch of the family, the House of Valois, keeping the throne firmly in Capetian hands. With the French throne strictly locked to the eldest male, younger Capetian sons were given rich estates to maintain their status, but they were forced to look elsewhere if they wanted ultimate power, and so they actively pursued foreign thrones. Over the centuries, Capetian cadet branches pushed out to rule the kingdoms of Portugal, Hungary, and Naples. They even reached across the Atlantic. By the 19th century, the family's expansion peaked in South America, where a Capetian descendant ruled as Emperor Dom Pedro II of the Empire of Brazil. Hugh Capet inherited little more than a title, but his successors used a rigid survival strategy to consolidate the French state and outlast nearly every other medieval bloodline, eventually seating the royal houses of the world.